Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. We're always told to change our minds or change our perspective, but how do you actually do that? Today, we're diving into a really powerful framework from a lesson by Dr. Bruce McClure that flips the script on how we think about change. It turns out it's not really about willpower. It's about getting to the very source of our thoughts. So let's get into it. So have you ever been in this situation? You're supposed to be on the same team. Maybe it's at work, in your marriage, with your family, but you just cannot seem to get on the same page. It's like you're both reading from completely different playbooks. It is so frustrating, and believe me, it is not a new problem. In fact, this exact issue pops up thousands of years ago in the ancient Philippian church. You've got these two women, Euodia and Syntyche. They're working hard for the same cause, they're on the same team, but they are constantly at odds. Dr. McClure has this perfect analogy. It's like one was playing a record at 33 RPM and the other cranked it up to 78. Same song, but a total mess. They were completely out of sync. Their story is going to be our case study for what's really going on when our inner worlds just don't line up. So, how does a disconnect like that even happen, especially between two people who mean well? Well, the answer isn't on the surface. We have to go deeper into what you could call the mind's control room, that hidden process that turns what we think and feel into what we actually do. Okay, so this framework shows our inner world as a kind of one-way street. It all starts with our spirit, our deepest connection to our values, what source material calls the candle of the Lord. That spirit then informs the soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And only at the very, very end of that chain does the body act. You see why this is so important? It shows why just trying to act better almost never works. You're starting at the end of the line.
Right. So think of it like this. Our actions are just the fruit on a tree. And what we see on the outside is just a direct result of what's happening way down at the root level. If you want to change the fruit, you can't just tape a new apple onto a branch. It's useless. You have to go deeper, tend to the soul, and fix what's going on in the spirit. Real, lasting change has to start at the source.
Okay, but what if you feel like you're doing the right thing? What if your conscience is totally clear? Well, this is where it gets really fascinating and maybe a little uncomfortable. It turns out having a good conscience can sometimes be incredibly misleading. So let's take the Apostle Paul. Picture this. He's standing in front of his accusers, and he makes this bold, incredible claim. He says with total confidence that he has lived his entire life with a perfectly good conscience. He believed with every fiber of his being that he was right with God. But what was he doing while he had that perfectly good conscience? This. He was actively persecuting people, hunting them down, tying them up, and throwing them into prison. He felt completely zealous and righteous while doing something that was objectively terribly wrong. And this is the gut punch. Feeling right and being right can be two totally different things. Our thoughts, that internal world, that's the real self. And if those thoughts are guided by a faulty, misaligned conscience, we can cause enormous damage while feeling completely justified in doing it. That's a real challenge to our own sense of certainty, isn't it? So, if our own conscience can lead us so far astray, how in the world do we get back on track? How do we actually change? Well, thankfully, the framework gives us a path forward. It comes down to 3 essential keys for realigning ourselves. All right, the path to getting realigned rests on 3 pretty tough but crucial pillars. First, you almost always need help. Second, you absolutely have to be teachable. And third, well, change is almost never something we just choose to do. Let's break those down. That first key, needing assistance, comes with a huge warning sign, and it's captured in this fantastic metaphor of the well-intentioned dragon. You know this person. They genuinely want to help you. But remember that spirit-soul-body flow? Because their spirit is misaligned, their soul produces words of fire, and their actions just burn the whole village down. They mean well, but all they do is cause damage. So that leads us to the second key, which is the antidote to the dragon: being teachable and creating a teachable moment for someone else. The secret isn't a better argument.
It's gentleness. When you stay calm in the middle of a crisis, when your own spirit is at peace, you create a space where the other person can actually hear you. Your internal quiet makes it possible for them to receive help instead of just firing back.
And the third key is just a cold, hard dose of reality. Most of us don't just wake up on a Tuesday and decide, you know what, I'm going to fundamentally change my core beliefs today. Deep, transformative change, it's usually forced on us. It's triggered by a major life event, a painful loss, a health scare, a rock-bottom moment. It's in those moments of being broken open that we're finally ready to be realigned. Okay, so this all brings us to the final and maybe the most profound piece of this entire puzzle. It connects the solution for our misaligned thinking to a very specific mental state, what Dr. McClure calls an anesthesia for our anxiety. You've probably heard the advice to be anxious for nothing. Well, it turns out that isn't just a nice spiritual platitude. It's practically a biological instruction. When you are highly anxious, your body is flooded with cortisol and it literally shuts down your prefrontal cortex. That's the logical, rational, problem-solving part of your brain. When you're anxious, you literally can't think straight. Rational change becomes impossible. Now, check this out. The original Greek word that's used here is anesis, and it means a loosening, a relaxation, a rest. And if that word sounds a little familiar, it should. It is the root of our modern word, anesthesia. The instruction is to literally anesthetize your mind from panic, to put it into a state of rest so it can be worked on. And Dr. McClure's medical analogy here is just perfect. A surgeon cannot perform an operation if the patient's anxiety and blood pressure are through the roof. It's too dangerous. The help is right there, the healing is ready, but the patient can't receive it until they settle down. It is exactly the same with our minds. That surgery of realignment can't even begin if we're too agitated to receive it. And that leaves us with this final, powerful question to chew on. We all want to change our actions, and we know that means we have to change our thoughts. But what if this framework is telling us that before any of that is even possible, the true first step isn't trying harder, but letting go? To really change your life, do you first have to let your mind rest?